I'm pleased to tell you that we found a way to help peer pressure proof our children and literally stop peer pressure in its tracks. In this video, I'm going to expand on the complexity of this battle and what we can do to win it once and for all. I'll show you the formula that flips peer pressure into peer empowerment and why it works. I'll share with you the magic secret sauce that takes this highly complex issue and turns it into one profoundly simple answer. Finally, I'll show you how you can help peer pressure proof your children and your schools. So here's the deal. I have real answers for you, but up until now, we've been pretty helpless against the rising tide of social issues on our campus. We cannot eradicate a basic survival instinct such as peer pressure, but neither do we have to continue fighting against it. We can redirect this destructive force into a catalyst for self-governance, innovation, and high achievement. We can literally flip peer pressure into peer empowerment by transforming campus culture through peer pressure itself. It's kind of like fighting fire with fire, and it works. But first, we must understand the complexities of the fire we're dealing with. Teen suicide doesn't just happen. It's not the root of the problem. It's a symptom. Neither is peer pressure the root issue. It's just a reflection of greater forces in operation, and any one of these forces can rob our children of their emotional safety. But when combined, they form a deadly firestorm. Let me explain what I mean by a firestorm. In the Northwest, we are no stranger to wildfires. Every forest fire has the potential to become a firestorm, so powerful that it actually creates its own weather patterns, turning it into fire tornadoes. Once this happens, the fire is out of control because it's internally fueled. They are extremely dangerous and deadly. Critical youth issues are like mini forest fires that all meet up on our school campuses. Depending on the weather conditions of that campus, the fires will either be contained or they'll fuel each other to create extremely dangerous conditions for our children. For example, we have millions of children who suffer child abuse and neglect every year. Statistics vary, but experts tell us that as many as 1 out of 3 girls and 1 out of 5 boys are sexually molested. Cyberbullying and violent crimes on and off our campuses are at an all-time high. Other statistics report that 70% of our youth, desperate to be loved, have been in a sexual relationship by the time they graduate, only then to deal with the very adult emotions of rejection, broken relationships, broken promises, and broken hearts. We haven't even touched self-worth, eating disorders, social stigma, and the loneliness that's left 12% of our youth on antidepressants. These are very real emotional firestorms. Educators feel the tremendous pressure of campus culture and the prevailing social attitudes. We carry a burden for our students, and we agonize over how to be effective in our fields. We feel the rejection of disrespect, and we watch almost helpless as amazing young men and women become casualties right before our eyes. Education is no longer just about teaching academics. It's about keeping students safe, emotionally and physically, while providing an environment where they can learn as well as want to learn. To succeed, we must be part educator, drill sergeant, entertainer, law enforcer, counselor, comforter, motivational genius, and most importantly, part expert in child and social psychology. The education system was simply not designed to address these extremely complex issues, but we have no choice. We must find answers. The answer lies in the complexity of the situation itself. Peer pressure is an all-consuming force that results from campus culture, yet we have little information available regarding campus culture or how to develop it. Businesses such as Disney, Yahoo, and Google spend millions of dollars developing their corporate culture because they know their profits and the quality of their products are a direct result of the culture they establish. The culture defines everything that comes out of that business. It will make them or break them. We can develop a campus culture that harnesses the same instinctual forces of peer pressure and flip them into one of our greatest tools for academic and social achievement. Schools have one of the most complex cultures in society, with influences from teachers and administrators, government, community, parents, and students. Each of these contribute innate social rules specific to their niche and values. We assume all is well on our beautiful elementary school campuses. Kids are happy, progress is being made, and peer pressure is not even on our radar in a kindergarten class. The reality is that our students are already part of a social stream that will continue to build and intensify until 25% of those same precious kids playing on the playground today will contemplate suicide before they reach adulthood. It may seem like all is right, but something is not. This highly complicated issue has had no real solutions and not much hope waiting for us on the horizon. Education alone can't do it, and character programs, they hardly scratch the surface as this problem continues to escalate. My background in music, education, business, and psychology has provided unique insights from each of these arenas to offer a multidisciplinary understanding of this multifaceted issue. This synthesized viewpoint has led to the development of IQ-EQ leadership education. Now we can address peer pressure on multiple levels, through multiple channels, from multiple disciplines to form one profoundly simple, synthesized answer. IQ-EQ leadership education works. But here's the real beauty of it. I've been able to take all the highly complex elements required to solve this problem and put it in a format that students go crazy over. We deliver the whole package through children's musicals. That's right. Music is the secret sauce that makes it all come together. Peer pressure can be flipped through the simplicity of teaching children to sing. I told you it was profoundly simple, but don't let this apparent simplicity fool you. This isn't just any music. This is IQ-EQ music that's designed to create actual neural pathways to connect information throughout the brain. Remember all those disciplines I mentioned earlier? They have been integrated into these carefully crafted songs that connect our cognitive intelligence, commonly referred to as IQ or intelligence quotient, and emotional intelligence, our EQ, with leadership skills and experiences that inspire students to want to achieve. And that's the trick. It's hard to believe that a fun little musical can flip peer pressure into peer power, but it does. Music teachers, we've long understood the power of music, but we've had no idea just how powerful it actually is. The tools and resources I'm about to share with you do not exist anywhere outside of the Championeer system. We are perhaps the only IQ-EQ leadership education curriculum available, and the magic secret ingredient that makes the whole thing work is music. Not only does the music provide the IQ-EQ connectors, kids absolutely go crazy over our dynamic camp-style approach, making implementation effortless. You don't need a 4-year implementation plan. You don't need tens of thousands of dollars to do this. You can start immediately and see almost instant results. We have testimonial after testimonial of students begging to go to music class. In one school, there were almost 200 students who turned out for extended rehearsals after only 2 weeks of starting the program, and 70% of those students were boys. These are not theories. These programs have been tested and perfected over the past 30 years with effective results in large city schools of thousands, remote country schools of less than 100, schools of affluent means, laid-back schools in Hawaii, private schools, public schools, charter schools, one-building school districts, multi-campus districts, driven schools in the Seattle metropolitan area, as well as Title I schools with nearly 100% of their students on government subsidies. The results are always the same. Kids love it, parents love it, teachers love it, administrators love it, and you will too. I know it works because I accidentally discovered these principles myself while teaching in possibly one of the worst school environments ever. In the early 1990s, I took a K-12 music position. The school was in a small, isolated mountain town, but it was as rough as it gets. poverty ran rampant. It was not uncommon to have 3 feet of standing snow, and yet we had students sleeping in renovated chicken coops the entire winter. Many families did not have running water during the deep freeze months, sending their children to school cold, hungry, and in soiled clothing. It was the first time I had been exposed to such blatant poverty. These conditions were reflected in attitudes throughout the entire community. The town sheriff was a transplant from the Bronx who left the violent rat race to enjoy the mountains. It was so bad there that he transferred back to the Bronx. He dubbed this town the anti-social community, where people moved to escape society, creating an entire town of antisocial people who disliked everyone. These were my students. This was my school, and this is where the Championeers' journey began. By the end of my first week, I realized that no music method I had ever studied was going to work with this group. The students were out of control. Teachers were weary. Morale was non-existent. The school was already at a 50% dropout rate, and 50% of the remaining students were labeled with either learning or behavioral disabilities. What could administration do? Kick out every student in the entire school? I wasn't even allowed to remove a child with unacceptable behavior from my classroom because they all had unacceptable behavior. There was simply no place to send them. The office was always full. These students played high-stake games, and music was irrelevant to them. I was even more irrelevant. When I received death threats, I took them seriously. In a school where kids cut teachers' break lines just for fun, in the mountains, you've got life-threatening campus culture issues. It was so bad that one day the superintendent came to my class and asked if I'd step into the hall for a moment to answer a quick question. Gone for less than 1 minute, we suddenly heard a violent commotion inside the classroom. We ran in just in time to stop one of the kids from throwing another one through the second-story plate glass window, head first. Believe it or not, that was one of my calmer students. Another student shot himself in the head playing Russian roulette. Miraculously, he lived. Still, another set the school on fire while we were all inside. That student was only 12 years old. The students were truly just a reflection of their parents' attitudes. When a mother was called in for an intervention conference because her son had threatened my life, she said that it was my issue, and if I felt threatened, then I should leave. It was a good thing I had just finished my degree in child psychology, because without those additional tools, no music teacher could have survived that situation. These kids were in sheer survival mode. Even though I cried almost every day on my hour commute home from the mountains, this school and its students forced me to rethink music. I had no choice but to create something different because nothing else was working. I tried every music method I could find. I tried every trick I had ever used. I tried every established psychological and motivational strategy I could get my hands on, but nothing got through to these kids. I was absolutely miserable. This was not what I signed up for. All I wanted to do was teach, but instead I was forced to be a security warden for a juvie hall. My heart broke for these kids, really did. But I could feel my love for teaching draining out of me as my own dreams were swallowed up in this hopeless environment. Finally, out of desperation, I tried a musical. Can you imagine? A musical with these kids? Like I said, I was desperate and completely out of options. These songs had a positive message about friends and relationships, so I crossed my fingers hoping that somehow something would resonate in them. To my utter surprise, it did. This simple little play touched something in the kids that nothing else had been able to. Somehow it got past their facades, their apathy, and their self-defense mechanisms, helping them to process the issues of belonging and worth that were tormenting them. These little songs gave them the answers they needed to cope with the very, very difficult life situations they were facing. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. I watched in shock as an entire class of emotionally detached kids began to cry. One of the boys ran out of the classroom so no one could see him, as his emotions just simply overwhelmed him. That particular song was about two high school kids who wanted a deeper connection with their parents, but couldn't find a way past the walls that had grown up between them. I didn't fully understand the implications of what had just transpired, but I knew I had discovered an incredibly powerful tool that transcended traditional music approaches. Having finally found something that worked, I wrote a musical for the whole school with a message that would address one of the critical youth issues they were facing. Although I couldn't have expressed it at the time, what was happening was the music was providing the emotional connection necessary to cognitively address the larger social issues paralyzing these students and turning their school experience into a survival of the fittest war zone. In essence, the musical provided a place of emotional safety where their brains could process how to cope with the very real conditions in their environment that were causing a fight or flight reaction. Although that production has evolved dramatically through the years to become the Championeers production Caveman Rock, this initial story of a young boy named Alex was first introduced on that gym stage with those very students many years ago. Even during its most basic and polished beginnings, Championeers and its formula for peer empowerment worked. So how does the IQ-EQ formula work, and why is it the answer for peer pressure? The formula is based on 4 main foundations that result in 7 critical elements that are required for peer empowerment, which creates emotional safety. These foundations are IQ plus EQ plus experience plus purpose. All 4 foundations are required to be successful. If even one of the foundation blocks is not included in the equation, it just doesn't work. The first 2 foundations are IQ and EQ. They work together hand in hand. One without the other actually fuels peer pressure and will hinder your educational efforts. You see, the brain is made up of 2 hemispheres. One side is the logical intellectual processing center, and the other is the emotional creative processing center. You may be familiar with the terms right-brained and left-brained. We are actually full-brained, and we were designed to fully utilize both information centers for optimal survival and achievement. The problem is that the 2 information centers do not communicate well with each other. The information is there, but it's not connected. This is a huge problem because 80% of all decisions are made from the emotion center of the brain, not the intelligence center. The intellectual information gets stowed away where it cannot be easily accessed at the moment of impulsive decision making. It's why a child can recite the definition to respect, but not be respectful. It's why really great kids can do really dumb things. Have you ever asked your children, "What were you thinking?" Well, they weren't. There's a disconnect going on, and that's where the problem lies. Our students have never had so much information, but they don't emotionally know what to do with it. Music, however, connects the IQ with the EQ by building neurological super information highways through the corpus callosum, the part of the brain that attaches the 2 hemispheres, to connect every emotional and intellectual file cabinet of data and stored memories that are even remotely related. Through CAT scans and EEG monitoring, we can watch the entire brain light up like fireworks, and it turns into a giant problem-solving machine. Schools are masters at educating cognitive intelligence, but we have almost no tools for emotional education or IQ-EQ connections. Music, however, can take a cognitive concept and put them into emotional expression, and that's when the magic happens. Bam! The connection is made and the music transcends into concept songs. Now, when you teach a child the definition of respect through music, his brain immediately connects all of this information and says, "Oh, I get it." But this is not enough. We have plenty of character education programs out there singing songs. The third part of our secret sauce is the necessity for experiences. Concept songs tell a student what to do and why to do it. but experiences tell a child when and how to use the information. This is the phenomenon of storytelling. When people hear a story, our brain processes the information as if we have experienced it for ourselves. Firemen utilize the power of storytelling when they debrief after each call. The firefighters share their experiences, what happened, what they did, and what they do differently, as all the other firefighters listen. Experts tell us that the information generated from that storytelling session then becomes a collective database of all the firemen in that unit that can be utilized by any of them to encounter a similar situation. In the same manner, children learn from stories. They emotionally attach to that character. They feel their struggle, their pain, their victory, and their accomplishments. They also learn from the character's mistakes as well as their choices. We can teach children leadership and problem-solving skills through an internalized process called association. The stories transform the information from external theories to an internalized schema of life experiences and success solutions. Once again, it's not just any story that'll do this. These are specially designed IQ-EQ connection stories that are told in a certain way using specific triggers to optimize the greatest internalization. When this process is integrated with concept songs, the connectors move from super information highways to hyper information highways. Now students know what to do, why to do it, how to do it, and when to do it. But that's still not enough. The old proverb that says you can lead a horse to water but you can't make him drink has never been so true as it is concerning student motivation. The fourth secret ingredient in the IQ-EQ leadership education formula is purpose. Some of the most naturally talented kids do not apply their potential because they have no reason to. Purpose, however, can transform a student of average abilities into a superstar. In Championeers, we build personal and team motivators into the program. As students progress their way through the leadership process, they soon gain both the skills and the motivation to want to succeed. These four elements extend much farther than what first meets the eye. By using a musical taught through a dynamic camp structure that incorporates leadership challenges, something far greater transpires. The results are the 7 cultural essentials necessary to peer pressure proof your students. In our training, we go into great detail about why these are essential and how Championeers implements each one, but in a nutshell, the students themselves reset their campus culture. They're the only ones who can do it. That's why we need a program that is so loved and embraced by the students that they will lead their own charge, and they will. The results are amazing. They develop a culture of vision where students discover the greatness that's within them, a culture of honor where students discover the greatness that's in others, a culture of purpose that provides a path for them to succeed, a culture of connection where students know they unconditionally belong, a culture of leadership where students learn significance and ownership, a culture of tenacity where students learn to take personal initiative and responsibility, and a culture of extraordinary that firmly establishes intrinsic value, not performance-based worth. And yes, we've encapsulated every one of these essential elements with real-life applications through the songs, stories, and leadership challenges of a children's production. Imagine for a moment what it would be like if Walt Disney designed your school. What would it look like? How would it feel? What would music class be like? More importantly, how would your students respond? Oh, they'd love it, wouldn't they? This is what Championeers brings to your school. Except you don't have to decorate unless you want to, but your kids would love it. Picture the thrill of watching students being kind to each other, being mentors, using encouraging words, problem solving on their own, and truly being respectful. Well, Championeers does this. Imagine being an administrator that no longer spends the majority of your time addressing disciplinary issues, but rather passing out awards for your students' leadership projects. Championeers makes that possible. Picture yourself as a music teacher that can't wait to teach your next class because you're having as much fun as the kids. Well, that's what Championeers does. Imagine your delight as a parent as you see behavior changes in your children. You are even more pleased when you discover that there are family night packs that put you in the driver's seat, so you reinforce the concepts through your own family values. Picture your thrill as a PTA parent to provide programs that peer pressure proof your entire campus while changing how children process information for the rest of their lives. Finally, picture how your donation can change the DNA of an entire community by providing IQ, EQ leadership education for your schools. Every student in an entire school can receive the benefits of the Championeers program. Whether you're an individual, a family, grandparents, a business, a church, a civic organization, or a major corporation, when you invest in a one-time seed grant, your donation releases the same unlimited potential that's contained in a seed. Championeers is the single greatest gift that you could ever invest in a community. Every school and every community needs a Championeers program, and you can make that happen. Championeers works, but I'm just like you. New things are scary, and the effort to implement change requires more energy than I have. So let me encourage you. Since I've been in your shoes, I tackled every obstacle head on, so you don't have to. You might be saying, Deanna, I love it, but I can't add one more thing to my plate. I know, educators are on overload all the time. But that's exactly why you need Championeers. This isn't like the old music programs where you had to learn all their methods and all the new lesson plans for every grade and all the songs that are involved. Everything is right here for you with digital demonstrations that you can either learn from for yourself or teach your students with. You just plug and play. And you're gonna love this. You'll only teach one lesson to every class in every grade each week. Yay! It's time you get back your life so you can teach what you love while loving what you teach. You simply modify grade level games and skill builders. If you have twice a week classes, a slight adaptation gives you everything you need to change it up. Imagine just one concert, one set of songs, one theme, and only one lesson per week. You might be saying, I'm intrigued, but I still have lots of questions. I've got great news for you. I've put together a course called Peer Power, How to Peer Pressure Proof Your School, that goes over all these concepts in detail as I lead you step by step through the entire program. This is a professional development course, so you can earn credit while you learn. Every child and every school deserves to be peer pressure proof. So even if you choose not to use the Championeers, the information will prove invaluable to you. Right now you might be thinking, that looks like so much fun, and it is, but I don't have all those skills. No worries. This isn't just a student curriculum. It's actually a college class that teaches you the materials first, so you learn as you teach. In addition, you get an entire team of songwriters, choreographers, producers, directors, script writers, teachers, and experts in the fields of motivational, educational leadership, and child psychology to hold your hands as you go. Since I am a non-dancer, I took particular care for the rest of you who may also have two left feet. This is where the click classes come in. Let us teach this part while you get a hang for it. All you have to do is follow along with the kids until you've got it. We will never tell your secret, and they'll never know. Since you teach the same lessons all week, you'll probably have the moves down within the first few classes. Meanwhile, you earn professional development credits with each new Championeers production while you're building your skills. It's awesome. Maybe you'd like to get your entire staff on board, but know how much they resist even the mention of change. As we know, change can overwhelm people, but have no fears. Championeers is the undisputed king of camps. So let us disarm the change-resistant default mechanism and tackle this through the same approach we take with your students. Let's give your teachers a day of fun with an in-house Championeers staff leadership camp so they can experience the information in real time. They'll laugh together, they'll do some bonding, And if you're like most schools, your staff might need this as much as your students. They'll develop new vision for their campus together. And not to be sneaky about this, but once your staff goes through a leadership camp, they are completely hooked because we use the same 7 essential elements of peer empowerment that we use with the kids. At the end of the day, they will be IQ, EQ, leadership education experts and evangelists. You might be saying, I'm totally sold, but what's this going to cost me? Our school has nothing in its budget. The great news just gets better and better. I worked in school districts that had very limited budgets, so I totally understand exactly what a huge issue this is. Some leadership programs are as much as $25,000 a year, making them untouchable for the kids who need them the most. And these programs are not based on IQ, EQ connections, which are required for the neurological pathways to develop. But what is a program like this worth? What would you give for your children to be fully equipped with both academic and social problem-solving skills? What is it worth to have a campus where children are emotionally safe? What price is too high to save even one of our students' lives? There is no price too high. Every child deserves to be peer pressure proof. So this is what I've done. Utilizing my business background, I've developed a way for the entire program to be 100% self-funding. Crazy, right? Not at all. This can be done. Every single child in your entire school can receive the benefits of this great program. And if you choose to utilize the self-funding option, it pays for itself, so any school, anywhere can offer a Championeers program. You might be a parent saying, how can I get this for my child? I have a family night pack designed specifically for you that you can use independently of your school or in conjunction with it. The second way you can get Championeers to your children is by sharing this information with your child's music teacher and your school PTA. You can bring this to every child in your community simply by telling your school about it and asking if you can help them get it started. Finally, you might be saying, Deanna, this is amazing. It's exactly what I've been looking for. How do I get started right now? Well, first let me say, yay! We love our Championeers teachers. And you are going to love the Championeers. All of your digital materials are available for you as soon as you sign up. You could be teaching your very first lesson tomorrow morning. We can't wait to have you as part of the Championeers family. As we close, I want to come back to that little grandmother I told you about earlier. By the end of our conversation, she wanted to know how she could get this information to her friends and her family. She looked me in the eyes and said, "Thank you. For the first time in a long time, I have hope." There is hope. There are answers. We can peer pressure proof our students. We can inspire, empower, and equip our children to become a nation of leaders. Champions take action. You can bring all of this to the students in your community, and I'll be with you every step of the way. We can do this together. Be a championeer.